Hello everyone, good evening, and welcome to Mind Over Matter with me, Banaisha Kharas. Just gonna wait a minute more for more people to join in. Alright, great. So good to see all of you here. So today's session is going to be steps on how to be a happier couple. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to be disabling the comments and we can take on questions thereafter. Okay, so steps to be a happier couple. Now, there are lots of us at most stages in our lives where we feel that we could be happier with our partners. And a lot of times we feel that what is it that we are doing wrong and we are not being able to understand our partners better. So today let me start off with a myth. People often feel that once you are in a committed relationship or in a marriage, you no longer need to nurture it. And it's self-sufficient. I'm sure that some of us have been through these stages and realized that it is a big myth, and it's not true that we don't have to nurture our relationships, but in fact need to nurture it a lot more and sustain it for a good long time. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 important aspects on how to be a happier couple. Starting off with point number 1, spending time with each other. Now, as much as this might sound obvious, or as much as this might sound something that I'm probably already doing is what you'd say to yourself, it's very important to keep the spark alive. There will be moments wherein you feel that it's not really important to go on that one small coffee date, or to even take a walk together in the evenings, or to even have a chat before you go to bed. But actually, it really is. Simple reason is that when you have a plant and if you water it only once in a while and say that it'll use up the water for what I did on Monday, and it doesn't need more water because on Monday I poured a lot. So the rest of the week I don't need to. But that's not the case. What we'll end up doing is sometimes we have these big gestures, we have these big moments where we spend a lot of times with our partners, and we feel that gets kind of adjusted into all the other smaller aspects. But that's not true. You cannot invest a big chunk on one day and expect that chunk to sustain for the next coming up moments. Just because you did a grand gesture on their birthday doesn't mean that you really forget their smaller needs or smaller requirements when they do reach out to you. So spending time with one another is something which is really important. So it's not about just going on dates. It's not about going outside or spending money or being lavish. It's a simple conversation that you can have with one another in your living rooms, on walks, or just having a chat while you're having a meal as well. Keeping each other updated is also very important. So step 1 is spend time with your partner. Step 2 is decide together. So deciding together creates a great sense of respect and involvement with one another. Whenever you ask someone for their opinions and ideas, you create a great impact on them. So imagine what this does to your relationships. When you decide together, your partner would feel respected, they would feel considered, and ultimately feel happy and wanted. Today, when somebody asks you for your opinion, don't you feel like you're more cherished? Don't you feel like you're more loved, more accepted? Similarly, it's really important to decide certain matters together. Whether it's a home front decision, whether it's a life decision, it could be a career decision, it could be smaller decisions together about meals and outings or anything of that sort. But it's always nice to decide together. Because when you bring a lot of inclusiveness to your relationship, that's when you truly become exclusive to one another. So sometimes you need to go inward only to have a stronger boundary on the outside. So deciding things together will only gain their trust and appreciation. Moving on to point number 3. Don't forget to laugh. So a lot of times people think and say that laughing is only prevalent in relationships when you're courting one another in the initial days. It's called the honeymoon phase. And thereafter, laughter just diminishes, according to most people. But let me tell you something. For someone who's been in a relationship for almost 12 years, laughter is something that keeps you together. Find moments and spend time with one another and laugh at moments which include yourself as well as your partner. Facing your life with a smile on your face and having time for one another and making the best of each moment together will only get you closer. If you forget to laugh at one another for good reasons, of course, and not to put one another down, then there is something about your relationship which starts to sadden, which starts to frail away. So laughing really rejuvenates not only you and your senses, but it becomes infectious to the opposite person as well. So laughter is not only a good medicine for you, but it's definitely for your relationship. Moving on to number 4, being honest with each other. So being honest is a very vital position today in life, with a lot of opportunities, a lot of, there are various kinds of people we meet, and there's a lot of insecurity around, not only in terms of jobs, or not only in terms of economics, but also the matters of heart. So being honest with one another is only the best way forward. There are many a times we do mistakes. There are many a times we falter on our part. But it is imperative that we understand that we've done wrong and we come out there and actually share that, hey, I was wrong, but this is how I'm going to try to fix it. Being honest with one another about your feelings and about what you think, your opinions on certain things, of course said in a nicer way, is always appreciated. It will help you understand each other, and you may lead to being more empathetic in nature as well. If you're not honest to one another, there are sometimes we tend to assume things in relationships. And my favorite quote of assumption, as most of you who have been in Mind Over Matter would know, that assumption only makes an ass out of you and me. ASSUME. That's how you spell assume. After all, when you're in a relationship, you need to be like an open book. You have to be very honest and vocal about how you feel and how certain events make you feel and how certain mannerisms may make you feel as well. So when you're honest with one another, you can progress in your relationship in a better way. So be honest and don't hide by thinking that if I say this to my partner, they will leave me. Well, trust me, truth has a way of finding out anyway, and then they definitely might just. So be honest with one another, no matter how big is the mistake can be. Moving on to my last point, which is appreciate one another. Today, appreciation is lost somewhere in the world. We're always competing with one another, and sometimes that competition also stems down into our relationships. So when you acknowledge and appreciate one another, all of that really shows, the effort shows, the opposite person's efforts show to you, and it makes you believe in one another. And this takes out a lot of stress of the relationship of certain competition sometimes. So noticing small things about one another in relationships and motivating and boosting and acknowledging and appreciating those small things that are done for you, or even sometimes not for you but just done for the greater good, are always well received by your partners. So today, for me to share something and notice something about my partner and actually tell him that, hey, what you did the other day was really nice and very kind. He might not come across to me and say, oh, thank you for noticing. He might just smile, and that's a great acknowledgement anyway. So next time, it's a probability or a likability that he would be empathetic and notice my changes or my flaws, or sometimes even the goodness that I do. So appreciating the smallest things, say such as it's a good dish, or making something different for dinner today, or taking out time for a family lunch, or say for the married ones, dropping kids to school. All of these things will only make you appreciate one another. And sometimes in this whole world of cribbing, where we constantly crib about what we don't have, we tend to forget what we do have. And only when we realize when it's gone, it becomes a little too late. And a lot of relationships kind of frail out on that aspect too. So appreciating one another is vital and it's imperative. With that, I'll end it. In the end, there doesn't have to be anyone who understands you. There just has to be someone who wants to, right? So why don't you be the person who wants to understand your partner and make that effort for your partner as well, and see how they make an effort for you, and magic will happen. So that's from me to you, and I'd love to take all your questions now. So I've turned on the comments and I'll await your questions. Some of you have asked me in the question box, how have I been? I've been very good. Thank you very much. Okay. So I have received a question in the question box which says, do we always need to make an effort? Well, you don't always need to make an effort. However, it would be nice if you make an effort whenever you think you need to. All right. How to convince a person when he is angry? So first and foremost, allow the person to be angry if need be. Allow them to say what they want to say and express themselves. Thereafter, you can very politely come around to them and let them know what your side of the story is. But don't try to make a point with somebody when they are angry, because that's going to be pretty much pointless. Okay. How to tackle ego? Well, if you could elaborate a little more on what you mean by ego here, and I can then help you understand this better. Okay, please shed some light on the role of a sorry. So a sorry is used and should be used only when you truly mean what you say, because otherwise it just becomes, as a matter of fact, another statement. So in relationships, when you have done something wrong or something incorrect, it's always better to apologize by saying, I apologize for this act, and I realize, follow the sorry or the apology by a realization message. So it actually becomes a complete conversation. The person then knows that you're really sorry, or it's a genuine sorry, and how you're going to take an action forward and take things through and better the situation. Okay. How to handle long distance? So long distance again has its varying challenges, and some parts of the long distance are because of how we are as individuals. So if I really have to say how to handle long distance, giving you a quick thing from my life, how I handled long distance for the brief while that I needed to. I think it's very important to give one another space. It's very important to trust one another, to be honest with one another, and to have fixed times of communication. So if there is a time distance, difference that is there, it's very important that you set a time and date that this is the time we're going to speak. And it shouldn't be for a long-ended duration, because of course each other have work, but that time dedicated to your partner, and do nothing on that other time. So you can't be on your phone at the same time checking out Instagram and things of that. You need to be in the present, in the moment with your partner, discussing whatever you need to, whether it's a light conversation or whether it's a heavy conversation. So make sure that you are giving the necessary time that it needs to. Of course, if you feel like your relationship in long distance is taking a lot away from you, then you really need to think about, is this relationship doing any good to me? And always a long distance relationship has to have an end. What I mean by end is that the distance needs to end. So are you going to move there, or are they going to move here? That is something that you need to have clear in mind. And that is something that you always will look forward to, because you'll keep the end in mind. And that's the best way to get your distance closer. All right. Is it okay to have fights and still be together? Obviously, it is absolutely okay. It's how you deal with the fights and how you learn from your fights. So it depends what you fight on. Now, some could be big fights, some could be small fights. And when you have big or small fights, it's very important to have a chat after that, a small chat at least, to say that, all right, these were things that I did wrong, but these were things that I did not like about you. Rather than saying, these were things that you did wrong, and these are things I don't like about you, so I did these things. It's always better to first say that I admit I was wrong. However, there are few things about you as well that I did not appreciate. And that's how they become a lot more receptive to what you have to say. Alright, how to deal with a husband who prioritizes his friends over his wife. So it's very important that you actually have a conversation with him and tell him how you feel. So start by saying, I feel lonely, I feel hurt, I feel whatever your feeling is when you prioritize your friends over me, or I feel like you prioritize your friends over me because of certain of these events, and name those events. If you don't have a conversation with him in a very calm format, but keep on saying that, yeah, you don't have time for me, or you don't even look at me, all you do is hang out with your friends are really important. That's not talking, and that's not communicating how you feel about it. That's taunting. So it's really important that you actually hear, have a dialogue with him, right? Okay. Kunal Khanna is asking, is it okay to break her head with a baseball bat? I think not, Kunal. I think that's really, that's a very sad comment to make. So please avoid those thoughts, I would say. How do you know if the other person values you? So you know if the other person values you, if at all you you see that they are keeping note of smaller things about what you like, if they are appreciating you using the appreciating tool that we discussed earlier. If you feel that those value systems are coming forward, that's how they truly value you as a person. Value does not mean by only buying gifts, or does not mean by always getting to spend time, because these two things could have its own limitations for different people. I'll just take the last few questions. How to deal with the clash of opinions between one another? So it really depends on what kind of opinions that you have, and it also depends on what is the intensity of the clash. So if at all you do have smaller clashes about what to eat and how to wear certain outfits, or what to wear, or what to say, all of those things are minor, then I'd say that any kind of clash first needs to be addressed. Set what you have in your mind and then ask them what they have in their mind. A lot of times communications can be misunderstood by vocal communications, so it's sometimes better that you can write it down, write a letter and give it to them and say, there were a few things that I put down while I was thinking about our argument from last time, and these were the things that hurt me or that bothered me, and I felt it was best that I wrote them down to you rather than speaking, so you can read it at your own time and pace, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. All right. How do you know that they are the one for you? So there is nothing like knowing the fact that they are the one for you. There are no violins, there are no butterflies that play through, or you see or visualize. But knowing the one for you is that one gut feeling that you will get within yourself of comfort. When you are truly comfortable with that person, when you truly feel like that either that person is bringing friendship to your table, or bringing stability to your table, or bringing understanding. And note the fact that your partner cannot be everything in the world to you. Your partner will play a certain role. Just because you're married to them or just because you're dating them does not mean that they are going to be your best friend, your lover, your travel buddy, your excitement. Nothing. It's not always going to be everything. So know the fact that the one will only come to what is important to you. So for me, friendship and comfort was very important to me. So I got married to somebody who made me feel comfortable, who made me feel like I could be myself totally, and was my best friend versus anything else. Now there might be many other situations wherein your partner could be very passionate and full of love and very larger than life, but may not be able to be your friend, may not be able to have girl talk with or boy talk with or anything, or may not be always understanding or always giving you time as you require. So know that your partner's relationship with you is for a soul purpose, is for your soul as well, right? It is not to be one person having so many qualities or abilities, and it's not like one small packet which has all the goodies. It doesn't work like that. So the one will come from what you prioritize about what's important for you. All right. Taking on some last questions. My wife is very obsessed with me. This results in arguments. What can I do about her insecurity? So if you say your wife is very obsessed, I think maybe she needs to find something that she can call her own apart from you. And another time, what you can do here is speak to her about her insecurities and try to make her feel as comfortable as you can. Don't give her opportunities for her obsession to come on to you. So if she's going to call you 7 times in the day, you call her 4 times in the day. So that way she'll slowly and steadily start to ease out. Because insecurity comes when people feel that they're going to lose other people to other people as well. So like I said, if she's calling you 7, negotiate at you call her at 4. If she wants to spend 5 hours of the day with you, you spend a good 1.5 to 2 hours only focusing on her and not your phone and not the TV or not anybody else or talking about anybody else. And this slowly and steadily will try to ease out. If she's someone who's is finding it very hard to find her place in her own career and her own path, then maybe help her to do that. And that is probably causing her focus to be on you versus her career or anything else. All right, great. So I see that some of you have here mentioned that it was great and insightful and it brought you some clarity. Okay. Okay, so taking the last question. We broke up, but she still stalks me on social media. What is that supposed to mean? Well, if somebody stalks you on social media and you've broken up with them, I think the breakup was probably ugly. So how about sending them a very assertive message by saying, "I'm sorry that this has ended, and I do not wish to continue this conversation with you anymore," and leave them that message. That's it. And once you've seen that they've read the message, if you wish to, you can block them as well, so they cannot see your messages any longer. They cannot see your profile, and that's how you've cut off. Certain people find it very hard to let go easily. You might have the ability, you must be stronger to do that, but other people don't have the ability. And all we must do is sometimes be very patient, because breaking up does not mean hurting people. It's just about setting them free for something else that's better for you and better for them, right? Okay, so great. I guess a lot of you have said hi, so hello to all of them. All right then, thank you for all your questions, and I hope this session was insightful for all of you who were here. So see you soon, and take care until next Monday. Bye.